Hey, I know why you're here. And I got what you need. Skrillex! F you, Skrillex. You think you're Andy Warhol, but you're not! Exclamation point, heart! Hello one, hello all, it's the most Jimmy ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Skrillex. F you, Skrillex. You think you're Andy Warhol, but you're not. This is a new LP from singer, songwriter, producer, DJ, legendary DJ, Skrillex. This is a brand new LP from legendary singer, songwriter, producer, DJ, Mr. Sonny Moore, aka Skrillex. And I feel like if you're a dubstep fan, it should really be no mystery to who Skrillex is, what his catalog is, if you've been keeping up. And this dude is an absolute electronic icon and legend. He's the type to where he is so innovative, so creative. If you were to see the word dubstep in the dictionary, his face would appear right near it. And when it comes to how long he's been doing it for, he's been doing it since the 2010s, putting out classics like Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, Bangarang, please listen to Bangarang. But then having a dip in quality, in my opinion, but not releasing anything outright terrible, with the exception of Don't Get Too Close. But Don't Get Too Close was certainly his worst, in my opinion. Certainly vacant on ideas. Definitely a whole bunch of bland tracks all around. But like I mentioned, certainly a stronger release came out that very year with Quest for Fire, which was certainly his most creative album in a while and just bangers all around. But now we have his brand new LP loaded with 34 tracks at 48 minutes. But now we have his brand new LP loaded with 34 tracks at about 46 minutes. It's pretty much like a grindcore style format here, to where you're getting so many tracks on an album, but they're very short. Like, this is like classic AC. I'm not sure if I could say the name on here without getting demonetized, but if you're a grindcore fan and a fan of that extreme metal, then you know what I'm talking about. Like how they could put so many tracks on here and have this album be less than an hour. But the question is this album enjoyable? And I would say yes, but it's weird to call this an album due to how this is formatted and sequenced, due to the fact that this feels like a very post-apocalyptic mixtape, a very chaotic electronic mixtape with a whole bunch of watermarks, songs that don't exactly, I guess, feel like they're finished, but I would say, like, even the tracks that are shorter, they have a solid format to them. Like, they seem finished, they're just incredibly short. Like, the whole thing feels futuristic, anarchistic, hostile. And when I say hostile, I do mean hostile. But keep in mind the DJ here is being very tongue-in-cheek, DJ Smokey, I believe. Like saying, Skrillex is dead. Saying things like, rest in peace, Skrillex. Free Sonny Moore. We killed Skrillex. Listen to this song and we'll show you where to find the body. Or, I sold my soul to give you this song. And like at one point threatening to put him in the hole. Or one of my favorites, smoking is bad for your health. Especially when it's your own flesh you're smoking. It's just one outlandish watermark after the next, after the next, after the next. And to this record's credit, it definitely does have these seamless transitions. And as I mentioned earlier, this thing kicks off with the title, Skrillex is Dead, with DJ Smokey. With these Spanish guitar samples, with these synth horns that have a very sharp, beaming crescendo. And I feel like the glimmering additions really do bring in the following track very smoothly. I know it's not the longest track here, but it definitely does set the tone for entry thematically to this album. Because right after that, we have Spitfire with Hawaii Slim. And the bars here are used very creatively, as each thing Hawaii Slim is saying that the effects are adding on to complement them. We also get these intense cycling synth hits right after Hawaii Slim's Spitfire, which is actually a sample lifted from Zomboy's track Lights Out. And it sounds like I'm being blasted with this machine gun, but the only difference is that the rounds are spitting out these metallic dynamics. And this is really one of those moments where Skrillex uses his effects, but uses them with innovation, showing how much of an innovator as an artist he is, along with ushering in his extremely lumbering synth chords, which he's been known for in the past. And after this, we get some tracks that I could argue do flow nicely, but I just wish they had more to offer sonically, and I do wish were mixed a little better. I will admit though, they are heavy and do have some good ideas, but unfortunately, I don't necessarily feel the same for Things I Promised, where SONY's vocals just sound way too fried, and also I wish they offered more in their runtime. I mean, I think they're pretty heavy, and they do have some good ideas, with the exception of Things I Promised, where Sonny Moore's vocals just sound way too fried, and I wish there was more variety in their runtime. But we are definitely cooking with gas once again on the intergalactic dubstep banger Recovery, with some super squishy, rubbery synths with these intense drilling sounds, with shots of these beautiful vocal samples. I feel like this is one of those moments where Skrillex really shows his mastery of crafting the mixing, the sampling, and using them in an innovative way, in opposed to just being another face in the dubstep cloud, showing he could do more than these wub-wubs and dime a dozen drops, and showing how he could create atmosphere, art, and expression with these sounds and effects, like on Andy, which is very transitional with these fantastic synth and bass variations, tastefully placed 90s R&B vocal samples that evolve into these alterated, parsed out Jay-Z and Future samples, which I believe is from the song The Keys, that trade places with these laser-like synths, that leads into this futuristic synthy trap bridge, and then we get this absolutely glitched out passage and this very ethereal outro to end things off. That gives us this absolutely glitched out passage with a very ethereal outro. And then we get another series of tracks which are pretty bland in comparison to the highlights that Skrillex has dished out here. It's not really that strong in dynamics. You do get some builds, but they don't really add up to anything too powerful. But I will admit though, we do get some reversed vocal bits that are pretty cool. And the repetitions I found to be pretty disappointing, given how Skrillex can give so much excitement and variety in such a short amount of time. And I really couldn't find much to chew over here. Sure, you do get some density and some strong hits once in a while, but then it just goes into repetitious, bland territory. However, we do get an excellent pickup with MIRCHI Test, with German electronic dubstep rhythm artist Virtual Riot, and vocals from singer Nikisha. Like, this thing has some nice stop and go grooves with these very dense but brief synth swells, trading places with these metallic clangs. The track is a really tight, structured dreamscape, and the whole thing feels so ascending but chaotic and cathartic at the same time. Like, it really does feel like I'm entering into like a whole new world. Plus, I think the atmosphere and the vibe switch is very well sequenced. It's an intense, dreamlike, accelerating experience. And as I mentioned before, I do think SONY has this habit of taking these shorter tracks, but also making them very tedious, making them very uneventful. Like on See You Again VIP, where I think SONY is resting a bit too much on his laurels here. However, the track to follow it up is a total banger with MORJA KAIJU VIP. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. With these cycling synth warbles and arpeggios that are very colorful, but simultaneously very glitched out and projected. And I think the ethereal moments here really do contrast things perfectly. And the propeller-like breakdown is fantastic, done in such a visceral fashion. And one thing I should have mentioned before, and that I admire vastly about Skrillex on this record, is not only being creative with sounds and effects, but also his own songs and sampling his own songs and then reinventing them, using them as samples to create more atmosphere, to create more sounds, more scenes, more theater of the mind, if you will. and just completely reinventing them into something totally different with Dylan Brady on ZEET Noise that has this super thick, dark, pounding bass drums, and the whole thing really does give you that underground rave feeling, like you've been put in like this rave party in like the darkest, deepest portions of the earth, with these gorgeous glossy synth keys riding up, going fantastically into Booster, which is also a Skrillex sampled track. With this very disturbing high-pitch instrumentation, I can't necessarily tell if these are calls or what. It sounds like instrumentation, but it's really one of those moments of the record where I'm like, am I listening to a vocal sample or am I listening to complete madness go on with instrumentation that's sampled? Like, I really can't tell. Like, this track just feels so dark, but yet so tropical, so Caribbean jungle-like. But there's also an ominous feel here, something nightmarish to break things up. Then we get Fricky with this monstrous mutant-like modulation when it comes to the vocal samples. Sounds very Death Gripsian here. Like, I could honestly picture MC Ride hopping on here like, oh! But not only that, while you do have the chaotic moments, there is a linear sense to the bass here that keep things smooth, even though this track could be completely chaotic. Like, I think the flow works perfectly in tandem with the track. And in a way, I get the same gratification with the track Gadrunga, with these pitch distorted stuttering keys, along with these ghostly Deborah Cox vocal samples, which has this futuristic reggae inspired breakdown that ends off with what I could only describe as very cold, pumping white noise. Again, it sounds like a vocal sample, but I'm not entirely too sure. We also get some reggae inspiration on the track MOSQUITOTOUILLE. I hope I'm pronouncing that right as well, which is a short but effective track that really does dive into the reggae influences, but mostly from a vocal sense. That starts with these psycho-esque synth strings, and I know it's a little different, but it does kind of remind me of ESG a little bit, something out of ESG, but more, I would say, modernized, futuristic, and chaotic. Or even maybe like Eurohouse Justice coded, that has these absolutely insane, sharp, stuttering synths. But we also get Druids, which has these heavenly but bubbly synth layers, along with these warped synth chords, and I swear I feel like I'm hearing a vocal sample saying, G. Jones! And the last highlight for me would be Voltage, very expressive vocal sample from SONY that has the classic bro step production with the colossal stomps and drums, with these distorted wails that end things off beautifully with these MIDI piano keys. The sentiment is really nice about believing in your passion, finding something beyond life, like really digging deep. And of course, you get the ending where DJ Smokey is giving his thanks and gratitude to people who contributed to the album, be it the artists, the producers, the listeners, because without us, it wouldn't have been possible. It's a really, really nice send-off. And there were tracks here where I did find the vocal samples or vocal additions to be pretty bland, like on Baby Royal, Say Goodbye, just to name a few. Like, not every vocal sample, not every vocal appearance was fireworks here, in my opinion. And I think that was another example of things holding the record back from me, I guess, loving this record. But I still found it pretty decent. I still found this to be a decent portion of Skrillex's catalog. And also, I found this album to be very interesting to review based off the fact that you can't really cut this album down due to the fact that each track blends into each other. That would disrupt the flow. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't have been more engaging, it couldn't have been consistently creative, consistent in quality, because I think if things were parsed out, that would throw off the flow. But again, I do wish that we had like more heavier, more chaotic moments here, because the creativity, the chaos is where Skrillex really does shine, and throwing in that contrast is where the album really does shine. So yes, you do get your repetition, the bland ideas. Sure, not every track is going to be a banger. I mean, it's 34 tracks, but that doesn't really make an excuse, because I've heard albums that are have countless tracks on them, and they were very interesting and fantastic. So I'm not really asking for this album to be whittled down, but more consistent in quality. But this certainly is one of Skrillex's more enjoyable and creative projects in a while. Like, definitely more than a few highlights, definitely a lot of creative production aspects, and a fair use of what he's done in the past and bringing something new to it, something refreshing, and something I think hardcore Skrillex fans will absolutely love. I'm feeling a 3.5 out of 5 on this record. My channel, my opinion, sincerely, your critical plug. Hit me with a sub, show me some love, please subscribe, keep the channel alive, and that's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Skrillex, F you Skrillex, you think you're Andy Warhol, but you're not. Exclamation point, heart, till we meet again.